Hello and welcome to Shoot the Sh, the podcast where I interview men because I want men to talk. Today I'm joined by Harry Perks. This is episode 2. Harry, welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, Lewis. Yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. Not too bad at the minute, mate. Life's good, and it's appreciate
Yeah,
you inviting me on. I think it's a really good thing, and it's an important topic. I personally am a massive advocate for it, so I'm excited to have a chat.
excellent. It's episode 2, and I've already got an international guest, so you could say that this podcast is going places. That's not a green screen for those watching and wondering. So yeah, Harry, just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and one of the questions that I've been asking is sort of what makes you a man, but it's essentially intro yourself.
Okay, yeah. So my name's Harry. I've known Lewis since I was probably 16. Probably about 16 when we first, maybe a little bit earlier than that. We were in different sides of the school year. However, we started properly hanging out from about 16 years old onwards. I'm in the Navy. I've been in the Navy for the last 10 years. I've just taken a posting out in Italy, so I'm in Naples at the minute for the next 3 years. And what makes me a man? Tough question. For me, being a man is sort of projecting an image of strength and loyalty and consistency. You know, I think as a man, that's what we're supposed to be, in my opinion. And it is one about projecting that, and two, living up to that. So for me, that's what I feel like to be a man is.
Okay, cool. I've just lost your video, Harry, but don't worry, it's still all recording in case
Okay.
you see yourself looking really fuzzy. But yeah, I've still got you. Amazing. So the Navy, talk to us a little bit about how you sort of went into that route, what the sort of idea behind the Navy, what sort of
So
turned you into that field.
I did my GCSEs obviously with you. Didn't do particularly great, but didn't do particularly awful. Had enough to go to sixth form college, which again went to college with you. However, I had absolutely no idea what I was supposed to do with my life. Obviously, there was sort of the pressure is right. You do your college, you go to university, you get a degree, then you get a job. I soon realised academically and maturity-wise, I was nowhere near ready to undertake taking my A-levels and then going on to do a degree. And I soon realised that if I did go down that route, I would probably scrape by with a couple of A-levels and then get into a pretty rubbish university, do a degree, waste my time, waste my money, and not really come out with anything to show for it except a lot of debt. And this is a true story. I just flipped a coin, and tails, I would carry on doing my A-levels and try getting to university, or heads, I would go down to the recruitment office and sign up for the Navy, and it was heads. So the following weekend I went to Manchester and I went, yeah, sorry, let's join the Navy. Obviously I still carried on with my A-levels, but I knew from that point that I was going to be going into the military, so it was the best decision I could have made. Just going through that initial basic training phase, cliche, but you did leave a boy like a man. I stood a lot taller. I was a change. That point onwards, you know, I sort of just took on that sailor sort of way, you know, a bit cocky, a bit of confidence. It's turned me into the person I am today. Obviously, you go from being a boy, and then you get thrown straight onto a ship, and it's a man's world at that point. You're an adult. It doesn't matter how old you are. You're in that job with people who've been in the job a lot longer than you, and they expect something from you. And they expect a degree of professionalism. So it's a steep learning curve of going into a school environment straight into a working environment, let alone it being on a warship doing important tasks, other interesting things. So, you know, I matured a lot. My leadership improved, my confidence, my communicating skills. Um, so all of those things put together has now resulted in the person I am today, which I'm very grateful for.
Amazing. So obviously it's quite a institute in the sense that it's a little bit formal, as you said. There's a lot of like steep learning curves, sort of expecting you to sort of achieve and expecting you to be essentially slot into this machine of hierarchy quite quickly. What was that transition like? It's obviously there's obviously other pressures. There's obviously the life of just being a school kid, and then all of a sudden just sort of flipping into that.
By the military, always had I've never struggled with the idea of a hierarchy and a chain of command, and I understood that straight away. So it wasn't particularly difficult. But I know a lot of lads, and I went to a lot of guys training, really taking orders, following them. So for me personally, it wasn't that tough to undertake. It was exciting more than anything. And then the longer you're in, the more responsibilities you get, and then you get put into positions of management. Basically, you're then in charge of a watch. You're then in charge of a group of people. You have to delegate, and you manage them, and you have to understand the people that you're working with. And I to be honest, I probably flourished in that. I really enjoy that aspect of the job of working with people, working as a team. There's such a huge emphasis on team orientation within the military. We've got a set of core values called C2 drill, which is commitment, courage, discipline, respect, integrity, leadership. And those are the principles that you're supposed to model yourself on. And every day you are using some part of that. Either if you're on tasking or if it's just organising a beach barbecue with the lads on your day off, or something like that. It's all important.
Amazing. So you've obviously been in the Navy for a while now.
Yeah.
Coming up to is it 10 years this year, or is it a little bit longer?
10 years in June it was.
10 years in June. So there's obviously a sort of a lifestyle that you sort of choose from that, and it sort of puts you in a different position in sort of comparison to the rest of society. In regards to sort of yourself and your viewpoint on life, like how do you think that's affected your mental health from pretty obvious and pretty overpowering societal pressures? But obviously will struggle to sort of tick the boxes.
It soon became apparent that my life was never going to be the same as you guys, all my friendships, everything that I've ever known. I literally just got on a train, I went straight down to Portsmouth, and I don't do a 9 to 5 job. I don't go to work and come home every night. I spend long periods of time away. And that's at the very start of it, that's exactly what you want to do. I want to travel the world, do things, and don't join the Navy. You don't want to go to sea. So we spent a lot of time away from my friends and family, and that's great. But then after the first 4 years, I got a little bit older now, and I then got promoted, and I spent a 18-month period where I was home all the time on my promotion course. So every weekend, pretty much, I was coming home. And you then start to realise how everyone else is sort of progressing in their life and doing things that aren't possible for me to a degree. Everyone is sort of, getting into proper relationships. They're starting, or they may already been in a long-term relationship and they're starting to have kids, or buy their first houses and stuff like that. And I'm sort of, I can't do that because I'm away all the time. And it's, as time goes on, the body clock that's inside us as people, and it's particularly as a man, and I've just turned 30, And to be honest, I hear it ticking all the time. I feel there's an immense pressure on me. I've still not met the love of my life. Still not married. Still not got started a family yet. And I'm 30, and I'm out here for the next 3 years. And in all honesty, that does terrify me a little bit, because it's like I'm losing out on time. Now time is of the essence, and it's running out for me, in my opinion. But you do read a lot of things on the internet, saying, look, people are starting to have families later and later on in life, so there's some hope there. However, it still doesn't make it that easy for me. So that's something that I just have to deal with. With mental health within the military, when I first joined, it was a sort of a taboo thing. You just didn't talk about. You sort of, the attitude was buck up, buttercup, and crack on with it. And if you've got problems, then all right, just go and have a pint. Let's go out and piss. Which is incredibly unhealthy, and it's not productive. It's not going to solve the issue, because you're just going to feel 10 times worse from it. My personal struggles with mental health probably started about 4 years ago, after I come out of a bad end of a relationship, right before I was due to deploy to the Falklands. Like 3 days before I deployed to the Falklands, I broke up with my girlfriend at the time, and I was then going down 8,000 miles away from all my support network, my friends, my family, onto a ship which had no internet, in a position I'd never worked before, newly promoted, and it was immense pressure and stress. And what actually happened at that time was, for that entire 6-month tour, I burned myself out. I worked so hard to focus on something, because if I didn't have something to focus on, I would have gone insane. And I pride myself on not. We have a term in the military called going wibble. Wibble is when you're down tools, you can't do it. You go to sick bay and say, "Look, I am not right in the head. I need to go and seek help." I've sort of prided myself on never having to think I can't go man down, because people are relying on me. The ship's company rely on me. The chain of command needs me in my particular job. So I never wanted ever to go wibble. So that 6 months, I worked extremely hard, but then I abused my body. I gained an immense amount of weight, drank a lot, smoked a lot, and I had horrible exchanges back to the UK with the ex-girlfriend, which again didn't help. And when I did come home from that trip just before Christmas in 2018, I was a shell of a human, shell of a man. And I knew it, and I couldn't bear to look at myself, have a photo taken, seen by people. And I had this huge period of leave to take. I'd accumulated so much leave, so I spent 8 weeks, and I don't think I left the house probably at all for the 8 weeks. I was pretty much fine with myself, and I was eating more, and I was drinking. And I remember going around to my mum's house for lunch one Sunday, and she just said to me, "Harry, are you okay?" And those words alone, I broke down in the kitchen. I had to take myself outside for 10 minutes, as I couldn't stop crying, and I just hadn't talked to anybody. I hadn't been able to. I bottled up so much emotion, so much anger, and so much stuff, that just the simple question of "Are you okay?" was enough to take the top off, and it all just came out. And Mum, straight away, God bless her, she had to say, "Look, Harry, I don't know who this person is at the minute. You're not your bubbly self. You're not. You're absolutely terrible. Like, you've aged. Like, life's getting you down." I was like, "Mum, because it is." And I just thought that this person that I was with, I thought that was the person, that was the one, and unfortunately, it wasn't. And it's taken me a good four years to really sort myself out. So once I'd had that initial breakdown, I then joined my next unit, which was positive in some ways, because UK, I would do 4 weeks regular.
year on that ship was fantastic. Loads of new friends, got good degree. I socialised more, and I thought, right, okay, this is when you start again. The problem was due to workforce, manpower constraints. My colleague, who I would share my sort of job with, he went wibble, because he was having some issues at home, and rightly so, he was taken off the ship, and for the remaining time on that ship, I was the only person really able to do that job. And again, I worked myself to not to death, but it was killing me, that job, and in particular the last 6 months of that job, that ship, I suffered with sleep disorder. In particular, I was getting anxiety, panic attacks, and night terrors. To the point where just after Christmas last year, I actually threatened my cabin mate. In my sleep, I had no recollection of it, but he told me in the morning this guy was my best mate on board, and I just woken up and said, "I'm going to fucking kill you." I had no idea I'd done it, so I then went and told the chain of command, and immediately I was taken off the ship and given 2 weeks rest and relaxation, as well as my 2 weeks watch leave, so I got a 4 week. And speaking with a sleep professional and a private consultation as well, it was deemed that I was just overly stressed, and I'd worked myself too hard. And they were like, "What led to that situation?" I said, "Well, I felt like I couldn't take a step back because everyone relied on me, and I didn't want to let people down. And so it was my pride in my work, my work ethic, that I just always put something ahead of me. And towards the end of it, it was having such a terrible effect on my health and my mental health that I just about managed to leave that ship sane. And obviously, the opportunity to come out to Naples for 3 years, it was a means of, I mostly took this job because it was a means for me to escape, to get away, and in all honesty, I need to rebuild myself. It's been a tough 4 years. Obviously, we shared, we both attended a wedding in February. One of our best friends, Joe, got married, and we were all men of honour, best men. And the run up to that wedding, it should have been the most happiest and proud of my life. Able to be there for my best mate, to be with all you guys, and when the actual wedding came about, I was completely and utterly shattered and broken from the inside out, and I had to wear a mask. I had to put on a brave face and project this thing of, look, I'm happy, it's great, life's good, when in reality my life couldn't have been any worse at that moment in time. And I can't look back at the photos from the wedding, in all honesty, Lewis, because I can't stand to look at myself the way I look, the way I know I was feeling. That was probably the lowest point I've had ever. And it's an absolute shame because Joe was my best mate and I love him to bits. And I can't look back on that fondly because I know how bad I felt. And obviously, shortly after that wedding was my 30th birthday in March. And I didn't do anything for it. I didn't celebrate it. I didn't see anybody. And I made up an excuse that it was, I didn't really want it. The reality was I didn't want to. I didn't want to be seen by anybody. I just wanted to get away as fast as possible because I knew in 2 months after I was coming out here, and I just had in my head that this person that you are at the minute, Harry, isn't you, and it's the worst possible version of yourself that you've ever made. You need to get away. Unfortunately, I've never celebrated my 30th birthday, so I faced it, and I feel bad. I wasn't able to tell you guys as my best mates how bad I was feeling, when I feel like I should be able to do that. So this is all. The good news is, since I came out to Italy, my life's getting back on track. I'm a job which is completely stress free, more money, got healthier again. I'm on a health lifestyle, the meditative lifestyle with the weather, the food that's out here, doing great things for my soul. Um, things are on the up, which is good, because what I want to do is the next time I come home, I want to be a changed man. I don't want anybody to ever remember me as what I was for the last 4 years. I want them to always remember me now as what I'm now becoming. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of self-help, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-improvement to sort of be the best version of me, because I've also made the conscious decision that after this draft in Naples, I'm going to leave the nation. What's more important to me? And falling in love and starting a family, those are my priorities, and I just cannot do that whilst. That's my story, in all honesty, mate. I know it's quite long-winded, but we've all been through it all together. And the one thing that I have, a prime example of men talking to other men. Last weekend, I had a bad day on Saturday. Just felt like there was a cloud over my head. The guy who lives above me in the flat, this guy called Jimmy, the rank above me, however, he's also my neighbour. Said to him, we just go out, go down the beach, grab a coffee or something. Get out of my apartment, come into a foul mood. And then later on in the day, we're having a coffee. I said to him, I just need to talk to somebody. I need to talk man to man about what's bothering me. And we had such a nice in-depth conversation over a coffee. We both agreed how important it is to break down that stigma, that wall. In particular, we're both military men as well, and the fact that we were able to freely have this sort of conversation. And I never met that. That was exactly what I needed. And it turned my day around, so I appreciate it so much. I said to him at the end, I says, if you ever need to talk to anybody about anything, I like to think that the more exposure that men's mental health has had, it's starting to take effect. I positively will always encourage all the people I work with and all the guys that I love and care for to talk to me. That's it. So that's my story, mate.
Amazing. So we've one of the reasons I wanted to do this and just talk to just men in general and not anyone in any particular position or any particular. A lot of these podcasts sort of focus on celebrity or that sort of thing. So it's always great to hear a story from someone close, and it's always good to hear a story from, I guess, someone who's real. I think there's a lot to sort of digest in that. Like I said, it was a little bit of a long one. So there's a few points that I really want to touch on. I think the first one for me is that pressure that you put on yourself. Was that a coping mechanism? Was that something that you just that's just the indoctrination of the Navy? Is you just crack on? Like,
I think
you just threw
yourself
in, basically.
I'm a hard worker. I'm passionate about the job. So part of it's me, part of it is the Navy. They do not want to let not want to be the reason why something hasn't happened. You commit yourself wholeheartedly, and to the point where I almost commit myself and completely forgot about everything else around me, which was my life. My focus, my thing was work. When I'm at work for my 4 weeks on a ship, there are no days off. I'm on call, got a job to do, and I do that job to my best of my ability because I'm getting paid and I'm in a position of authority. So it's my responsibility to do as well as I can. Problem is when I was my 2 weeks off, because I didn't have an opposite number, an opposite colleague, I was still the point of contact. So I never had my downtime. It soon became apparent that in my 2 weeks off, the first 3 days of that would be depression time, where I couldn't talk to my parents, I couldn't talk to you guys, I wouldn't want to. And then the middle part of that leave, I have the responsibility of seeing people, seeing my mum, seeing my dad, seeing my nan, seeing you guys, try and see, maybe have a night out. And then that takes up a huge part of my leave. And then the last 4 days was me building up the barrier again, emotionally preparing myself to go away. So in reality, the 2 weeks off maybe 2 or 3 days of that was actually me having some me time. And doing that for 3 years, it takes a toll on you. I didn't quite realise that until the very end, through self-reflection.
Yeah, and then another thing you touched on was that you finally got some support from that. It was actually something that was an outside factor that sort of made you that the Navy sort of stepped in and said you need to
I was
take some downtime
worried.
and speak to these people. And then I think you said you got some additional stuff as
I
well.
was so worried about going to the chain of command about it because it's a bit of a taboo subject, having night terrors and sleep can be made. I didn't want to do because it's my job. Without it, but I had to do that. One, two, an outburst that I just couldn't stand by, and I said, so it'd always been a bit of a laugh and joke. I'd always wake up screaming, there's something going on in the cabin, and laugh about it. Never been violent or threatening to anybody. So I went to the command and the executive officer, a guy called Ryan Greig, and I'd served with him before. And I sat down in his cabin and I just laid it flat on the line and straight away went, deal with this then. Straight away. And that level of support, I believe I got that sort of, the level of support was because how hard I'd worked, because I was such a valued member of the ship's company. And they wanted to help me out so much. And immediately I was on a telephone consultation with sick bay, speaking to the doctor there. As soon as we got alongside, I went straight off to sick bay. Within half an hour, she got absolute stress. So she signed me off for 4 weeks. But no circumstances need to be contacted from work. First time, probably in 3 years, that I'd had an uninterrupted period of being at home without having a phone call regarding work or something like that. So it was much needed, and my sleep did eventually. It's taken me about 6 months. It's taken me about 6 months for my sleep to finally return back to normal. Because I've not really been troubled with them since I've been out here. But what's great now is there is so much within the military awareness for mental health. There are so many outlets, opportunities, and possibilities for you to seek help, and it's extremely encouraged. We're so much more aware of it now, to the point where the Navy's now set up a mental health tiger team type thing, where it's a dedicated group of mental health nurses within the military and civilian who are on a crisis hotline, and they will mobilise wherever you are within the UK or wherever you are in the world, and they will be there to support you and help you and help deal with whatever it is that's getting you down. And that's not something that's been available. That's only come into fruition probably within the last 2 or 3 years. So before that, what did the guys and the girls have apart from their shipmates to talk to? Not more. So it's great that the Navy, the military in general, is embracing mental health awareness.
No, it's good to hear that that's finally in place. And I think, yes, there's obviously that huge camaraderie of shipmates, but there's always that sort of ribbing element to it, and there's always that additional pressure of showing weakness, and you don't want to be the weak link in the chain, so to speak.
The boys' club, unfortunately, obviously the Navy is getting a lot more diverse, a lot more women. Environment where strength want to be the weak one. Show the chinks in your armour, that is a area of weakness, and that's where if you banter, the people will target that. They change, they be progressing to get away from stuff.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a conversation that I feel I'll have a lot. Is the group of friends or the group of people that you spend the most time with, you might feel that you can't share with them because of that's where the banter comes from. And I think having a laugh and having a joke and bantering with friends is a great thing to do. I don't think we should ban banter, but it's there's you've got to pick and choose, and you've got to pick and choose who you allow to banter with, because it should really be closer friends that and there's a lot of things around that, but I think it's quite hard if we're unable to talk as well. Like, you just don't do that. Like, chat on about anything else, that's fine. But that sort of, like you say, it goes to that boys club element of things, and it's very hard to be that bloke, because before you know it, if that's the thing that they see weakness in, it's usually the one that gets the most chirps and the most sort of attention.
I'm a sensitive soul, and I'm very, very good at communicating. So I love to talk about how I feel. I struggle to identify who I can talk to about, because it's all well and good that I'm so willing to talk about everything. The other person, they might not want to feel comfortable listening to that too. Also, letting down their guard, and letting themselves expose their weaknesses and identify what they are. As I said earlier on, one of my biggest regrets was I never told how bad I was.
That's a really interesting angle that I've never really thought about. That even if you're willing to talk, if that person's not willing to listen, that's actually a really nice analogy. Not that they're not wanting to listen; it's just that they're almost the wrong person to talk to. I like that. I think that's something that.
Biggest difficulty I've had with my work struggles is the only people who can understand it is the people I work with. My work environment, my work life, can't comprehend it. Even guys in the army and the RAF, and their way of life is totally different to the way the Navy is. So I also felt like the only time I could get off my chest about work was talking to guys I work with. But going back to what I just said, it all depends on the type of person you talk to. They've got to be willing to talk themselves. I'm fortunate I've got a few people I can have that in-depth conversation with, which has helped me massively, because I'm that type of person who needs to talk to somebody when I'm feeling bad.
That's it's good that you've found that group of people, whatever that looks like. It's actually something that Matt said on the previous podcast as well. Like, we sort of touched on it, that we talk when we're with each other, but because this conversation has literally been given the title, we're talking about mental health, we're a lot more open. Like, you and I think we've had maybe one conversation like this in the past, when realistically there's probably...
Should have had a lot.
Like you say, we've known each other for 15, 14 years. Yeah, like it's the irony that it needs a label to have those conversations, and that's something that I kind of hope that we can work on as a group, and as a gender as a whole. I think there's a lot of pressure. I think he was just sort of saying that it's like, when you say, "Oh, can we have a chat?" you almost set a tone to it before you've even started. So it's quite a bizarre one. And then obviously you've moved away from that element of the Navy, and you said this is a big step for you, and it's sort of, I guess, the swan song for your career within the Navy as well. You sort of said that and touched on that as like, this is going to be the last bit. So does that knowing that there's an end, or is it more the change? What was the biggest shift for you mentally?
I know the light at the end of the tunnel now, and it gave me closure, and there's no grey area now. I know that this is the end of my chapter in my life within the military. It's quite nice to know that's it. I have no desire to take it further than that. once I accepted that, everything became a lot simpler. It's not that I don't care about it anymore. I still give 100% in my job, but I don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't have to worry about the pressures of getting promoted again, of doing this, doing that. It's like, no, this is my last job. I've got 3 years. Let's enjoy it. Obviously, moving out had its own challenges, because I've come out here unaccompanied. I'm on my own in a foreign country, and I live on my own. Again, I've got no support structure. My family aren't near me. You guys aren't near me. And you do sometimes feel lonely. And that was the reason why I was feeling shit last week, because I just felt a bit alone. I was missing that connection with having somebody, and that's going back to the pressures of finding the person you care about and falling in love and stuff. I just woke up Saturday morning and I was like, I am really quite lonely at the minute. Not because I've got so many friends out here, I've got so many friends back home. It's just I haven't got that person that I can devote myself to and be happy with. Because I was like, it was a weekend, and I was like, what am I doing with my weekend? I wish I was going away to the Amalfi Coast with somebody I cared about and enjoying a nice weekend away, but I haven't got that at the minute. And that was what was getting me down. And I just needed to tell people and talk about it. And as soon as I got it off my chest, my attitude turned around, and I was like, well, it'll happen. These things come.
Yeah, I think I've obviously lived abroad
Yeah, of
myself,
course.
and you get days like that where you just like I'm quite far away from everyone, even if it is Europe. It's still not round the corner. It's still quite a difficult thing to get your head around. It's I've had similar things. Thankfully, I wasn't in. For me, it was very much I was very fresh faced when I went there. I wasn't. There wasn't really any pressure on me externally. I just was enjoying life. But yeah, you do get those days where it's like I don't want to. So for me, I imagine it's quite similar for yourself. It was like that you're the most logical people to speak to were the people that you were working with, and like it was a bit like, well, it's my weekend, and I'm a bit done with like what we're going to talk about on Monday. Like you can't have what did you do at the weekend? Oh, we hung out together. It became quite almost a little bit culty almost, but yeah, you find things to do, and hopefully you'll like you say you're doing exercise and stuff, and hopefully you'll find some sort of other outlets.
Well, I joined the rugby team out here. I'm doing a lot more regular exercise, eating healthy, because why not? I've got this opportunity. I'm rebuilding myself, and small steps like that of just getting back into exercising regularly dramatically improves your mood. And then obviously what follows from that is you start losing some weight, you feel more confident in yourself, you look, and it just has so many positive effects. So I would say that's been the biggest change recently, getting back into physical and mental health, strengthening.
Yeah, definitely. I think my question for that is what did you see was that made you do that, or was it like I just need to just start working on some other things and hopefully that'll start working? What?
The motivation for me was obviously on the wedding in February. I hated the way I looked. I've always struggled with my identity and like the way I look to other people, and always been very self-conscious. So one, that needed to change. Two, I'm out here now. It's all beach weather. You're always going down to the pool. I want to feel confident. I want to feel confident in my own skin. If I don't want to be the guy who's like, I'm not getting in the pool because I don't want to take my shirt off. It's like, no, sod it. I'm getting in the pool. I'm going to go and go for a swim in the beach, whatever. Three, I'm 30. I'm not going to live forever. And the more I could do now.
Great. So Harry's now out. This is ridiculous.
Sorry about that. I think we dropped off there. But obviously, the main motivating factor is I want to meet somebody. And if I feel better in myself and the way I look, it's going to be easier for me to meet the woman of my dreams or whatever. And that's the ultimate goal, is to find somebody and be happy with them. So if I can, it all starts with me, and the best version of myself I put forward, the more attractive, an option I'm going to be to somebody. So yeah, that's my motivation. Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, all in all, I think for me the biggest thing for this was conversations, getting people talking. Really, really grateful for you opening up again. Similar to the previous episode that I've done of this, I think this is going to be a common trend when we seem to put that headline of we're talking about mental health. Everyone seems to be a lot more open, which I really appreciate. I'm glad that you've felt confident enough to talk about it and tell people about it. And it's good to see that you're addressing it and moving forward with things and trying to do the right thing. I just got sort of a question sort of moving forward, and something that you might not even thought about yet, and it's probably something to potentially consider. Obviously that transition from Navy life back to Civvy Street, and the sort of you've obviously got these goals of sort of settling down and moving forward with normality, shall we say. Have you what are you going to look to do to not put too much pressure on that? Because when it's the love of your life, I guess you imagine you get your meet cute and it's great, but you don't want to put too much pressure on it and sort of go into a spiral that way. So I'm just wondering if that's something you've considered or something that you
obviously I've thought about that. You don't want to just jump in with both feet with the first person, but I also sort of feel like if you know when you've met that right person. I just haven't met that person. That's the thing. So obviously you keep looking at that, and obviously I need to prepare myself to be in a civvy. So my main, one of my focuses whilst I'm out here is retraining and getting education qualified to enter the workplace that I want to pursue as a civvy. So for me, it's going back to school. The Navy and the military in general, they have a fantastic scheme depending on how long you've served. Sorry, man, I think it's my wife. Yeah, I think my Wi-Fi is being a bit rubbish. So I don't know what you got from that anyway.
Well, we're going to put a lot of pressure on the software that I'm using. I've got a few clips to edit together, so I apologise for my editing skills in advance, and hopefully we've not missed too much of what Harry said. It's promised me that the recording quality has been better than the live quality, so fingers crossed we get some good snippets out of it. It's been good. It's been a pleasure. I want to thank you again to just opening up and having this conversation, and I appreciate where you're coming from and the struggles that you've had, and I'm glad that you're starting to move forward. And I as I sort of said, and as is sort of the theme of this, there is no right answer, there is no wrong answer. Mental health is something that is very much a spectrum, and I'm hoping that by speaking to a number of people that we get a number of solutions and a number of ways that you can deal with it. So it's great to see how you've tackled it and how you're managing it and how you're moving forward. But it's been a pleasure.
I really appreciate you invite me on. When you sent the message into the group chat last week, I was absolutely straight away. I was like, yes, I want to talk about it. I want to be a part of this. And I've been looking forward to this conversation, to this interview, since you put the message in there. And I think it's an absolutely fantastic thing that you're doing, Lewis. Setting up this podcast to cover this topic and address it and promote it and get the awareness out there. And I'm a massive supporter of it, and I will do my utmost to advertise it to everybody to spread the news. So I really appreciate you having the time of inviting me on, mate.
No worries. I again appreciate you for coming on, and yeah, anyone who wants to share their story, I'm happy to sit and have a conversation with them. So yeah, thanks very much for your
Love
time,
you, bud.
Harry, and
See you
we'll
later.
speak soon.